In a distant future, humans turn into big lumps of fat and completely ruin our planet. Whether there is a chance at their salvation, you'll find out in this recap of the animated movie WALL-E. We are shown Earth in the distant future. It's the 22nd century. Due to an enormous amount of waste, the planet turns into a huge landfill, which becomes absolutely uninhabitable. In an attempt to save humanity, the BNL Corporation launches huge Axiom starships with surviving humans into space in the year 2105. Earth is left with thousands of robots of the WALL-E series to clean up the debris. 700 years pass, the planet is still littered with garbage, but a great part is already stacked in huge towers. Well done, robots! The last of the remaining WALL-E robots continues to toil tirelessly, making huge blocks of the remaining trash. He also collects the most interesting things from human life and takes them to his garage. There the robot often watches videotapes of Hello Dolly and enjoys his favorite tunes. The video teaches WALL-E human feelings, emotions and behaviors. Most of all, he likes to hold hands, but unfortunately he doesn't have anyone to hold hands with. The robot has only one friend, a little cockroach named Hall. One day, WALL-E also finds a small green plant in one of the discarded refrigerators and transplants it into an old shoe. Near his house, WALL-E notices a red laser beam and sees a large spaceship landing on the planet. Out of it emerges another robot that looks nothing like WALL-E himself. It is a white and blue-eyed robot, Eve, a research robot that the humans have sent in search of plant life. WALL-E watches Eve's mesmerizing flight and gradually falls in love with her. Eve attacks anything she finds suspicious with her cannon and nearly fires at WALL-E himself. Later, the cockroach Hall decides to scout the situation and approaches Eve from behind. Hearing his footsteps, Eve turns around and discharges the gun at him. But it's a cockroach. Of course it survived, and Eve even starts to play with it. WALL-E gets closer, and the new planet inhabitant attacks again. But after taking a closer look, she realizes that the robot is not dangerous. So Eve turns around and flies on. WALL-E follows the robot. Eve goes to sleep at night, and during this time, WALL-E builds her a figure out of garbage. But alas, the blue-eyed beauty does not appreciate the gift, and our hero is very disappointed. Eve spends the whole day looking for a plant, but doesn't manage to find one. She becomes frustrated with herself and begins to feel sad. WALL-E wants to support her and get to know her better. WALL-E. But then a sandstorm begins. The robot takes his friend into his garage and shows her all his trophies, as well as his favorite movie. To show off, WALL-E shows Eve the plant he recently found. She scans it and realizes it's exactly what she's looking for. Eve immediately places the plant in a special container inside herself and goes into standby mode. WALL-E tries to wake Eve up, then takes her out on the roof and takes care of her, trying to protect the sleeping beauty from the weather and keeping it in good condition. He spends all his time with her, taking her for walks, watching sunsets with her, and constantly trying to hold her hand. But there's work to be done. And finally, WALL-E goes back to picking up trash. Suddenly, WALL-E sees the arrival of the same spaceship on which Eve came to the planet. It takes her with it. Willing to keep his beloved with him, WALL-E clings onto the outer shell of the ship and flies away with her. In space, our robot sees lifeless Earth and the mountains of garbage in orbit. Together with Eve, he arrives at a huge spaceship Axiom. Eve, still in hibernation mode, is picked up and taken to McCree, the ship's captain. WALL-E rushes after his beloved. He is followed by a cleaning robot named M.O., who intends to clean up all the dirt left by WALL-E's tracks. On his way, our hero encounters humans for the first time in his life. After 7 centuries of microgravity, they have lost some bone and muscle tissue, and have become so fat they can no longer stand or move without the help of robots. So they hover in special seats with video screens, and all tasks on board are performed only by robots. WALL-E interferes with their measured life and changes everything. First he helps one of the fallen men up his chair, and then, while chasing Eve, he accidentally disconnects 2 people from their screens. They were so engrossed in the virtual communication, they can't see the world around them. Eve comes out of hibernation mode and wants to show Captain McCree the plant she found, but it has disappeared. She decides that it was WALL-E who took it. The robot named Otto, the pilot of the ship, concludes that Eve is malfunctioning and sends her and WALL-E to diagnose. The robots come to the repair ward, where WALL-E is placed in the waiting room and Eve is sent straight to diagnostics. Our hero sees her being dismantled to parts and rushes to save his beloved. Using her plasma gun, he accidentally shoots the control panel, which disables the security system and releases all defective robots. They take Wally to the robot guard, but Eve immediately rushes to his aid. The guards take a picture of them and declare them wanted as particularly dangerous robots. A chase ensues. Thanks to Eve, they manage to escape the pursuers and make it to the lifeboat. Eve wants to sell Wally back to Earth, but he refuses to return without her. At this point, a small robot appears and places the previously missing plant shoe in the capsule, having programmed it to self-destruct. Eve is about to pull the plant out, but Wally outruns her. At this point, the small robot launches the capsule with the remaining Wally in it. Eve wants to save her new friend and, of course, the plant, so she flies out to the capsule. Meanwhile, Wally tries to get out, pressing all the buttons in a row, but this doesn't help him much. Suddenly, the robot sees a fire extinguisher that he has already dealt with on Earth, and he comes up with a cunning plan. Eve is about to catch up with the capsule when it explodes. Frightened, she rushes on, but at that moment, Wally flies past her with a fire extinguisher, as if on a jet engine. Eve is happy to see her friend alive and in one piece, and is even happier when he shows her the plant. She hugs Wally, twirls around with him, and gives him an electric kiss. Then they fly around the spacecraft together and go back on board. Eve returns the plant to Captain McCree. The captain is eager to see Earth through Eve's eyes and asks to see the recording from the planet. They see how Wally cared for her after she switched off. The captain is horrified by the mountains of garbage on Earth, and he decides that humans should go back and fix what they've done. However, Otto insists that they can't go back on Earth and shows a tape taken 700 years ago. In it, the head of BNL orders autopilots to never return to Earth, for it is no longer habitable. The captain refuses to obey Otto, and in response, the robot takes the plant from him and throws it down the garbage shaft. But Wally rescues it and hides it inside his body. Otto electrocutes him, burning his microconduits, and our hero falls into the trash pit. Then the robots deactivate Eve and throw her in the same place, after which they lock the captain in his quarters. In the trash compartment, Eve gets accidentally rebooted by a mouse-shaped robot before being thrown into outer space together with Wally. At the same time, the cleaning robot is sent out to find the foreign contraband, which is actually our hero. Meanwhile, Eve gets free on the pile of debris and pulls Wally out, after which the cleaning robot gets stuck in the doorway and thus helps them escape. Eve tries to fix Wally, but can't find the right parts to repair him. Wally points Eve to a plant and talks about Earth, letting her know that that is where she may find the right parts. Wally, Eve and the defective robots they have freed head for the captain's bridge to guide the starship back to Earth. At this time, in an attempt to quell Otto's rebellion, the captain changes the contacts of the wires and records a video message. He tells Wally and Eve they must put the plant in a special nanodetector. Then McCree cunningly lures Otto in his quarters and jumps right on top of him, not allowing himself to be thrown off. The robot tries to break free and drags McCree with him to the captain's bridge. That's exactly what he needed, because this is where the control panel is located. McCree and Otto start fighting, during which they break one of the nasty robots trying to kill the plant, and the captain activates the nanodetector. But the insidious Otto decides to tilt the ship, throws the captain off, and takes the control of the spaceship. The humans begin to crawl helplessly out of their seats and roll into one big heap, while Eve rescues them from falling iron couches. Otto begins to close the nanodetector. Then Wally gets in his way, preventing the hatch from closing completely. Otto uses a stun gun and damages the electronics, disabling the hatch's control mechanism. The nanodetector nearly closes, crushing Wally. While Otto does all of this, the captain gets on his feet, much to the amazement of the passengers, and switches the ship's control to manual mode. By doing so, he disables Otto and restores order aboard the starship. Eve places the plant in the nanodetector. It triggers the automatic code, and the spaceship makes a hyperspace jump to Earth. The badly damaged Wally shuts down. When the ship lands on Earth, Eve goes to the garbage to repair Wally. But the damage is so severe that even after repairs, Wally remembers neither Eve nor anything that has happened to him during his entire existence. The robot that saved all the people has become a soulless machine, capable of only collecting garbage and pressing it into cubes. How unfair. Eve tries to restore Wally's memory. She takes his hand and kisses him. The electric shock resets Wally's memory. He remembers Eve and holds her hand tightly. It's just like in his favorite movie. We see hills covered with green plants and realize that people have begun to rebuild the planet. And so, Earth is still habitable. If you liked our recap, then welcome to our channel, where you will find even more interesting videos. You've been watching the Movie Cat channel. Don't litter.